Imagine pouring years of your life into revolutionary software only to have the US government steal it through fraud and deception. In 1987, a federal bankruptcy judge ruled it outright. The Justice Department converted stole promise by trickery, fraud, and deceit. Congress later echoed those findings in its investigation. That software was called Promise, designed to track cases, people, and money across the justice system. Then it started appearing in places it never should have. One journalist followed the trail. The same names, the same agencies, the same scandals reappeared. He warned he was about to expose something massive. Days later, he was found dead in a hotel room. His name was Danny Casolaro. This is the Insler affair. This story began with a simple yet revolutionary piece of software called Promise, short for Prosecutor Management Information System. Developed in the 1970s by Insler, a company founded in 1973 by former National Security Agency analyst William Hamilton and his wife Nancy, promised to drag the US justice system out of the paper age. At a time when prosecutors juggled mountains of files, index cards, and disconnected databases, Promise offered an integrated solution, a database that could track cases, defendants, witnesses, evidence, court schedules, and even financial transactions across multiple agencies. What set it apart was its portability. Written in COBOL, it could run on various hardware platforms, from mainframes to emerging personal computers, a feat of adaptability in an era of incompatible systems. The story's root trace back to the early 1970s, when Hamilton, leveraging his NSA experience in signals intelligence and data management, secured initial funding from the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration (LEAA), a federal agency under the Department of Justice (DOJ). By 1978, Insler had refined Promise to a robust tool, piloted successfully in several US attorneys' offices. The software's potential was immense. It wasn't just a filing system, but a precursor to modern case management, capable of cross-referencing data in ways that could uncover patterns in criminal activity. Insler invested millions in enhancements, including proprietary features like advanced search algorithms and user interfaces, which they claimed as trade secrets. The turning point came in March 1982, when the DOJ awarded Insler a $10 million three-year contract to implement an enhanced version of Promise in 20 of the largest US attorney offices, with plans to expand to 94 offices nationwide. This was no small deal. Promise was to become the backbone of federal prosecution tracking. Initial installations went smoothly, but tension arose almost immediately. Insler alleged that the DOJ project manager Madison Brewer, who had a prior difficult history with Hamilton from their NSA days, began micromanaging the project. Brewer, according to court documents, demanded source code access and modifications without compensating Insler for the proprietary enhancements. By 1983, the relationship deteriorated dramatically. Insler claimed that the DOJ withheld millions in payments, over $2.5 million by some accounts, citing disputes over deliverables, while simultaneously pressuring the company to add features like enhanced tracking modules. Internal DOJ memories, later revealed in congressional hearings, showed officials discussing ways to convert Promise for broader use, including potential adaptations for intelligence purposes. That same year, allegations surfaced that a DOJ official named Dr. Ben Orr left the department with a Promise tape, sparking claims of unauthorized copying. Later sources even identified Ben Orr as an alias for Rafi Eitan, a legendary Mossad operative involved in highest-profile spy cases like Jonathan Pollard. For those of you who don't know, Jonathan Pollard was an American intelligence analyst who secretly passed classified US military and diplomatic informations to Israel in the 1980s. Making it one of the most famous espionage cases between the two allied nations. Back to the story, Insler executives believed the DOJ was reverse engineering their software to avoid licensing fees. The financial strain proved catastrophic. In February 1985, unable to collect owed payments, Insler filed for Chapter 11. Bankruptcy protection, a legal move that allowed them to keep the business running while they worked out a plan to pay creditors and reorganize their finances. It was the only way to survive long enough to fight for the money they were owed. The Hamiltons accused the DOJ of a deliberate scheme to drive them out of business and seized Promise outright. They pointed to evidence that Promise had been distributed to other agencies, including the FBI and even foreign governments like Canada, without Insler's permission. A 1986 bankruptcy court filing escalated the matter. Insler sued the DOJ for $30 million, alleging fraud, theft, and breach of contract. The legal battle intensified in 1987. Federal bankruptcy judge George Basin ruled decisively in Insler's favor after a lengthy trial, finding that the DOJ had used trickery, fraud, and deceit to obtain promise enhancements. Basin awarded Insler $6.8 million in damages and ordered the DOJ to return the software. His opinion detailed how DOJ officials, including Brewer and Deputy Attorney General D. Lowell Jensen, had manipulated the contract to withhold funds and force bankruptcy. His ruling sent shockwaves through Washington as it exposed potential systemic corruption in federal purchasing. Suspiciously, Judge Basin, who had ruled forcefully against the DOJ, was not reappointed to his bench, a rare move that many attributed to DOJ pressure. However, the victory was short-lived. In 1988, a federal district court overturned Basin's decision on jurisdictional grounds, arguing the bankruptcy court overstepped its authority. An appeals court upheld this in 1989, though it did not refute the factual findings of misconduct. Later court rulings in the late 1990s declared key versions of Promise to be in the public domain, which effectively ended Insler's main legal claims. A 1993 DOJ Special Counsel report also denied evidence of theft for intelligence purposes. Insler's appeals dragged on, but the company never recovered financially. At the same time, reports came out that different versions of Promise were being used in other countries, allegedly sold to intelligence agencies in Israel, Jordan, and other places, leading rumors that the software had been secretly changed. Congress took notice amid growing media attention. In 1988, the House Justice Committee, led by Chairman Jack Brooks, launched an investigation into the Insler affair. Over the next few years, hearings uncovered shocking evidence. Internal DOJ emails admitting to conversion plans, testimony from Insler insiders about harassment, and confirmations that Promise had been enhanced and distributed without compensation. In 1989, a subcommittee said the DOJ acted unethically, but it didn't recommend any criminal charges. The investigation continued from 1990 to 1992, and in 1992 the full court committee released a strongly critical report. It confirmed the DOJ's willful fraud, noted the suspicious non-reappointment of Judge Basin, and raised concern about Promise being adapted for surveillance. However, it found no evidence of a secret backdoor for spying, dismissing claims that the CIA or NSA had embedded Trojan horse code to track global intelligence. At this point in the story, Danny Casolaro makes his entrance. Danny Casolaro, a freelance journalist from Fairfax, was born in 1947 and had experience writing about technology. He also ran a company called Computer Age Publications, which he sold in the early 1990s. Seeking a big story, he learned of Insler through industry contacts and met the Hamiltons in the summer of 1990s. They shared court documents and they introduced him to Michael Riconoscito, a self-described CIA-linked programmer with a troubled past involving drug convictions and alleged intelligence work. Michael became Casolaro's key source, claiming in a March 1991 sworn statement, just days before his own arrest on drugs charges, which he insisted was retaliation, that he had modified Promise in the early 1980s at the Cabazon Indian Reservation in Indio, California. According to Michael, this work was part of a joint project between the Cabazon tribe, known for running casinos and other business ventures, and Wackenhut Corporation, a private security firm with close ties to the CIA. The work was led by tribal administrator Dr. John Philip Nichols, who was reportedly connected to the CIA, and businessman Al Bryan. Bryan was a former California Health Secretary and a close associate of President Ronald Reagan, and a friend of the Attorney General Edwin Meese. Under their direction, Promise was enhanced with a so-called backdoor, which could allow remote access to data. This allowed US intelligence to spy on foreign users, including banks and law enforcement. While Bryan profited from international sales, as supposed payment for his role in the October surprise, a secret political scheme designed to influence the outcome of the 1980s presidential elections in Reagan's favor. Casolaro named his network the Octopus, a metaphor for an eight-tentacled group linking government, intelligence, organized crime, and private companies. Within the Octopus network, Michael tied together a series of schemes: illegal arms deals, chemical weapon testings at Cabazon, and the 1981 triple murder of tribal vice chairman Fred Alvarez, his girlfriend Patty Castro, and friend Ralph Boger. Alvarez had discovered weapon stockpiles and stolen fuel connected to the tribe's activities on their reservation and threatened to expose them, making his death look like an octopus-related hit. By 1991, Casolero's investigation had expanded far beyond the Cabazon reservation. His notes, spanning boxes of documents, showed how Insula and Promise might be connected to a vast web of political and intelligence scandals. These documents included: the October surprise refers to claim that members of Ronald Reagan's 1980s presidential campaign secretly negotiated with Iranian officials to delay the release of 52 American hostages held in Tehran. The goal was to weaken Jimmy Carter's chance of re-election by keeping the hostages in captivity until after the election, creating a political advantage for Reagan. The Iran-Contra affair. Reagan officials illegally sold arms to Iran and funneled the profits to Nicaraguan rebels. Their goal was to weaken the Sandinistas, a political movement, and support a US-backed anti-communist regime in the region. The BCCI banking scandal, a massive global bank collapse involving fraud, money laundering for terrorists, dictators, and intelligence agencies. CIA-backed drug-running claims suggest that Contra rebels sold cocaine in the US to finance their fight against Nicaragua's Sandinista government, fueling the crack epidemic. Sources who spoke directly to Casolaro, such as Ari Ben-Menashe, a former Israeli intelligence officer, and Richard Branicki, a pilot with Contra ties, told him that Promise had been sold to more than 88 countries for surveillance, generating slush funds behind covert operations to pay for secret intelligence activities. Consumed by the investigation, Casolaro traveled relentlessly, interviewing dozens of people. Friends and family described him as optimistic, yet increasingly stressed, battling multiple sclerosis, financial difficulties, and the lingering pain of a personal tragedy. In the late 1960s, his younger sister Lisa had died of a drug overdose in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district, leaving Dan with a profound aversion to drugs and a deep-seated fear of blood. In August 1991, he traveled to Martinsburg, West Virginia, to meet a source, possibly Joseph Cuerre, known as Boots, a shadowy figure with military intelligence ties. On August 10, a maid found Casolaro dead in his hotel bathtub, wrist slashed deeply, up to 12 times, with a razor blade. The scene was gruesome, blood smeared on the walls, and the cleaning woman later reported seeing 2 bloody towels on the floor as if someone had tried to clean up. Initial examinations by paramedics noted strange bruises on his arms and head, and the tips of his 3 fingernails on his right hand appeared broken or missing. Possible signs of a struggle. No struggle was officially recorded, but his notes and briefcase were missing. Authorities ruled it suicide, citing his depression, a half-empty wine bottle, antidepressants in his system, and a handwritten note apologizing to family and expressing faith in God. Toxicology results showed no drugs or alcohol that could have impaired his judgment, and a blood spatter analysis supported self-infliction. However, Casolaro's family vehemently disputed this conclusion. His brother Tony, a physician, noted Danny's hemophobia. His intense fear of blood, rooted in the trauma of his sister's death, made such a violent bloody method highly unlikely. Adding to the suspicions, the family wasn't notified for 2 days, and by the time they arrived, Casolaro's body had already been prepared for burial, without consent, wounds closed, making a thorough second autopsy nearly impossible. Private investigators hired by the family uncovered more irregularities. Hotel staff recalled Casolaro checking in with multiple bags, likely containing research materials, yet none were found in the room. Witnesses reported seeing him the day before his death speaking with a man of possible Middle Eastern appearance, and on the day of his death on the parking lot with a man later identified as William Richard Turner, a former Defense Department contractor who had provided Casolaro with documents. Bloody towels mentioned by the maid never appeared on evidence lists. Fingerprints were unusable or untraceable, and potential struggle indicators like bruises and broken nails were never pursued. Missing documents, the quick preparation of his body without the family's consent, and anonymous threats Casolaro had reported all fueled suspicions of murder. A 1993 unsolved mystery episode amplified doubts, interviewing the Hamiltons, Michael, and former Attorney General Elliot Richardson, who called for an investigation. The 1992 House report urged investigating Casolaro's death, but a 1994 special counsel report by retired Judge Nicholas Boer reaffirmed suicide, finding no DOJ cover-up. While in prison, Michael continued to claim that PROMIS had backdoors. The story stayed under the radar until 2024, when Netflix released American Conspiracy: The Octopus Murder, directed by Zachary Trites. It follows photojournalist Christian Hansen, a childhood friend of Traits, who inherits Casolaro's notes and retraces his path. New details emerge. Hansen interviews the Hamiltons to reveal ongoing surveillance fear. Michael, via prison calls, elaborates on Cabazon modifications, claiming PROMIS evolved into a modern spiral like PRISM, a surveillance program run by the NSA. He also confronts Joseph Kuhler on camera. Kuhler admits meeting Casolaro days before his death, but denies deeper involvement. Hansen experiences paranoia, mysterious calls, and the feeling of being watched, experiences that closely resemble what Casolaro went through. While stopping short of concluding murder, the story raises questions about his suicide ruling, highlighting the severity of his wrist wound, missing evidence, and investigative mistakes, and suggesting that PROMIS may have influenced post 9/11 surveillance tools. Today, Inslaw still exists, modestly, as Inslaw Inc., run by the Hamiltons. The DOJ denies all claims of theft, but the story of the octopus remains. Real corruption, like the DOJ documented fraud, can fuel wild speculations when justice fails. In today's world of digital surveillance, PROMIS legacy shows how important transparency is. Whether Casolaro uncovered a real conspiracy or chased shadows, an investigation shows the danger of digging into powerful institutions, and how one stolen piece of software could spark one of the darkest American conspiracy stories ever told. Even decades later, the Inslaw affair and Danny Casolaro's death continue to inspire debates and speculations. Some people think that Danny Casolaro was murdered to silence him. Though officially ruled suicide, some believe Casolaro was killed because he got too close to the truth. They cite his extreme fear of blood, multiple deep cuts, missing notes and briefcase, prior death threats, hastily handling of his body, bruises and broken fingernails suggesting a struggle, and suspicious witnessing sightings. Another theory is PROMIS was weaponized with a secret backdoor. Some claim the stolen PROMIS software wasn't just about saving money. It allegedly had a hidden backdoor, letting US intelligence access data worldwide. Rumored to be coded by Michael at Cabazon, turned PROMIS into a global spying tool, sold to foreign governments and banks. Official investigations found no proof, but terrorists see it as a precursor to modern NSA programs like PRISM. Some people also think of an 8-tentacle network of corrupt insiders in government, intelligence, organized crime, and private companies orchestrated scandals like the October Surprise, Iran-Contra, BCCI fraud, and CIA-linked drug trafficking. Earl Bryan is often cited as a key figure profiting from PROMIS sales. Another theory suggests the Cabazon murders were a cover-up hit. Some believe the 1981 triple murder of Cabazon tribal official Fred Alvarez and two others was a warning by the octopus. Alvarez reportedly uncovered illegal arms, fuel theft, and PROMIS modifications at the reservation, and threatened to go public. Intelligence and tribal figures allegedly played a role in silencing him. Some believe PROMIS, with its cross-database tracking, global distribution, and alleged backdoors, helped shape post-9/11 surveillance programs like NSA mass data collection. Others also see it as a conceptual or technical foundation for PRISM, the NSA program leaked by Edward Snowden, with elements of PROMIS surviving on modern and private companies orchestrated scandals like the October Surprise, Iran-Contra, BCCI fraud, and CIA-linked drug trafficking. Earl Bryan is often cited as a key figure profiting from PROMIS sales. Another theory suggests the Cabazon murders were a cover-up hit. Some believe the 1981 triple murder of Cabazon tribal official Fred Alvarez and two others was a warning by the octopus. Alvarez reportedly uncovered illegal arms, fuel theft, and PROMIS modifications at the reservation, and threatened to go public. Intelligence and tribal figures allegedly played a role in silencing him. Some believe PROMIS, with its cross-database tracking, global distribution, and alleged backdoors, helped shape post-9/11 surveillance programs like NSA mass data collection. Others also see it as a conceptual or technical foundation for PRISM, the NSA program leaked by Edward Snowden, with elements of PROMIS surviving on modern spyware and intelligence platforms. What do you think about this case? Let me know your opinion in the comments. If you want to see another interesting case, check out my video about a couple who got allegedly kidnapped by aliens and recreated a star map that was shown to them, even though they had no knowledge of astronomy. See you next time.